This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah blah blah.
Everything Greta Thunberg says is true. It's been a lot of rhetoric and little action, and the UN Secretary General himself said so in his concluding speech at COP26. Yes, we are making progress, but it's so very slow. And this means young people are inheriting a very sick planet on the cusp of extinction. Today on Selinco Life Let's Talk is environmental scientist, conservationist and environmental educator Zainab Akbar Ali, who is at the Environmental Foundation and works on biodiversity conservation and ecological research. She's also the chairperson of the youth wing of the Wildlife Nature Protection Society. So welcome Zainab, and thank you very much for joining us on Selinco Life Let's Talk. Like all young people, are you holding your head when you see what's happening to this planet? And do you actually agree with Greta Thunberg's deduction that when it comes to leaders, it's all talk and little is done?
Yes, to a great extent, that's how I think a lot of young people feel. We feel agitated because there's a lot of impassioned rhetoric and statements often made about climate, the state of the planet, that we need to act now, there's no planet B. As she has, I think, famously said, blah, 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 there is just all this talk. And I think one of those frustrations where it lies is that the lack of enforcement when it comes to these climate agreements. We've had these large climate agreements. You've seen the Paris Agreement. Now, hopefully, let's see how it goes with the recent Glasgow Pact. Two things that really stand out to me is one is this, for the first time in the history of the United Nations climate governance and agreements, that they are directly addressing fossil fuels and calling for the deduction of fossil fuels, because often they have said, oh, we need to reduce carbon emissions, but we do not give the teeth in terms of how we are going to come about that reduction.
So as a young person, what are your key takeaways from COP26?
Initially, the agreement, I think they wanted to use the language, let's phase out. But there was this sense of, from certain parts, from certain governments, that we don't want to phase out, we would rather phase down. But that is also a reflection of the mindset of the international community when it comes to climate governance. Very early on in the conference, we also saw agreement with over 100 countries coming together to bring a halt to deforestation. This would in essence protect over 85% of the world's forests. My concern, and I think the concern of a lot of people when we analyze these things that come out, is that they often say, and these agreements have been made in the past. They have made suggestions of this kind, they've agreed to this, but will they actually commit to this and act through? Where is the action? And I think that is what waits to be seen, what will actually come out of all this.
How can we galvanize youth to take on the mantle to mitigate climate change?
Well, I honestly think youth are already galvanized, and I think the movements you're seeing today, especially you can see what happened with Greta Thunberg. We saw it recently, even in Sri Lanka, inspired by Greta Thunberg and her Fridays for Future climate protests. A group or coalition of youth organizations came together and protested in March here in Colombo, and we had a famous mural that went up. Something I feel very passionate about, though, is also, I think, education is key. It's important that we educate and people understand, because the science is clear. It is not something to be contested anymore. That is there. And this needs to be effectively communicated so people can understand the state and the current trajectory of the directions we are headed in.
So how do we change what we do at present? Because that's what ultimately impacts our future.
We need to turn back to nature, and the use of nature-based solutions is potentially one avenue to explore. Another area that I think we need to work towards is climate finance and seeing where the money goes, because where the money goes is where we are going to have it's a way finally address these solutions. Ultimately, you need finance, and this finance needs to be channeled into the correct avenues. We need to be able to look into the future and not look at short-term goals. Quite often we look at balance sheets, but we need to look at what will happen in 50 years' time. Because the profits are only going to be seen then, and the losses seen in a more pronounced way at that stage.
Thank you, Zainab, and I do hope something does come out of all our discussions about planet Earth. Whether you've been naughty or nice, our Kaleidoscope Santa might be nice to you. So don't forget to subscribe and follow us.
world of risks and obstacles, we are there to help you reach your goals. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees, our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Zelenko Life.